Have you ever wondered what your therapist is actually thinking about you? Have you ever wondered if they actually go to therapy themselves? Or have you ever wondered if people actually lay down on that couch? Well, I found a BuzzFeed article of 19 questions you've definitely wanted to ask your therapist, and today I'm gonna answer every last one of them for you. What's up everybody, DJ here with Creators Therapy. I'm an associate therapist and creative in Southern California, and today I'm gonna go through some questions. I found this article on BuzzFeed the other day called 19 questions you've definitely wanted to ask your therapist, and I loved a lot of the questions, and there are a lot of questions in here that some of my own clients have asked me, and so today I just thought, you know, why not? Let's just go through them and see what we can find out. Question number one, have you ever looked me up on social media? No. One of the things that I stress with my clients is confidentiality. Like whatever you say in here stays in here. So talking with you during this hour or whenever whenever you and I talk, I think that's the most appropriate time that I should get to know you. There's no reason for me to be looking for you on social media. To me, that's kind of like digging through your sock drawer a little bit. I know it's a little crazy nowadays just with social media being so prevalent and everybody's got social media, but I've definitely never looked up any of my clients on social media. To me, it's just a little weird. Question number two, do you know that I've tried to find you on social media? Definitely. I've typically assumed that, you know, some of my clients, not all of my clients, but some of my clients have tried to find me on social media, and that's just out of curiosity. I totally get it. You want to see who you're going to be talking to. Most of the time it's from clients that are first timers. They've never been to therapy before, or this is their first time to do a therapy session with me, and so they want to know who this DJ character is, and I totally get it. You know, I'd be curious too. And matter of fact, I think I tried to look up my therapist on social media. But yeah, definitely. I know of some clients that have tried to find me on social media, and I'm sure that there have been some clients that haven't told me they've tried to find me, try to look for me. So totally get it. It's all good. Question number three, does anyone ever actually lie down on that couch? I actually have had clients that have laid down on the couch, and I don't blame them. We have very comfy couches. I've actually laid down on my couches before, just, you know, if a client cancels and I've still got the room booked, then yeah, definitely nap time for me. You know, some clients do, some clients don't. Some clients are comfortable laying down on the couch just because it's like kind of in a relaxed place. Most of my clients just want to sit down. I think I've only had like maybe less than 2 or 3 clients actually lay down on the couch, and even then it wasn't every session. So that's a really good question though. Do you ever just zone out? I've never zoned out before. I think there's been times where maybe I'm writing down a note of something they've said, and I miss a little something at the tail end, but I've definitely never zoned out. Now I have in the session, I wasn't quite paying attention because I had food poisoning. My stomach was crazy queasy the whole day. I saw one client, and I'm doing my very, very best to pay attention and listen, but at the same time, I am so distracted because I can feel like by the time his session was over, I had walked him to the door. I said, yeah, see you next week or whatever. I sprinted to the back of our counseling center because we have a little courtyard in the back. I kicked that door open, just got sick all over the place, and felt a lot better after that. But that's probably the only time that I've ever felt very distracted in a session. Question number 5, what do you really think of me? We want to know that we're well liked. We don't know a whole lot about our therapists sometimes, but you know, we want to know kind of what maybe if they're forming opinions about us. To be a good professional, to be a good therapist, I can't let some of those things get in the way of our therapeutic alliance. That's my main priority. So what do I really think about you? You know, it's not really my job to form an opinion. I'm here to help you and collaborate with you in the best way that I can. So I don't really think about you, to be honest with you. I don't really think of you in a certain way. So question number 6, would we be friends if we just like met? There's definitely been clients where I think like, oh, there's a lot of things that we find, you know, common ground on, and it's really easy to build some rapport. And so yeah, in some of those aspects, you definitely think like, oh man, like if I had met him outside of here, we probably would have been friends. I've definitely had a handful of clients like that. But you know, this kind of leads me into another kind of side topic, which is that dual role relationships. That's something that we are taught very early on, and it's stressed to us to avoid at all costs. And a dual relationship is if I'm your therapist and I know you in from another space, maybe maybe we're friends, or maybe we're from the same friend group, but now you're trying to see me as a therapist. That's something that we definitely want to avoid. So I'm never going to talk to any of my friends in a therapeutic session because it just wouldn't be appropriate. We're mixing up our dynamic there. Since I've met you as a therapist, can't be your friend. Question number 7, are you gonna talk about this over drinks with your friends later? You know, a common question, honestly, a common question. I think this is more pertaining to like, are you gonna gossip about me later? And I can answer honestly and say, no, absolutely not. I don't gossip about my clients. I don't talk about my clients. There's definitely been experiences that I talk about with colleagues or my supervisor to kind of get, you know, some perspective, or maybe how could I handle this differently next time that this happens? Or there's just crazy stories that happen in therapy and you just kind of like, oh, wow, what do I do with this? But I'm definitely not gossiping about you. Definitely not, you know, going out everywhere and sharing your business with all of my friends and telling them all the stuff that I hear. Again, one of the things that I stress with my clients is that whatever is said in here stays in here. And as an associate therapist, I'm trained that if I can't hold it by myself, I should, you know, consult with my colleagues or talk with my supervisor. Question number 8, what are you writing down? Now, this is a really common question too, so I'm glad this is being asked. I have ADHD, which means that if I don't write things down immediately, I'll probably forget them in about 20 minutes. What was I talking about? So I have a pad and a pen with me in every one of my sessions, and that's just to keep notes. It's just to keep minutes, or if you've said something specific, or if there's a specific detail about somebody that I need to keep up with, or want to keep up with the sessions with and keep track of progress. That's the main focus of why we keep notes. Some therapists don't write notes in session. They may kind of keep a mental track of what's gone on in the session and then write it down after you've left. Some write it down in the middle of session. But what am I writing down? I'm writing down notes. I'm writing down stuff that maybe you say as a client. Good question though. Question number 9, are my issues boring compared to your other patients? I actually feel like I get the opposite question, where a client will tell me their story and then they'll be like, this must be the craziest thing you've heard today, or like, oh, you still want to work with me after hearing all this? And I totally get it. It's kind of a way to cut the tension and kind of a way to cut the anxiety of sharing all of your stuff with, for the most part, a complete stranger. But I don't think anybody's issues are boring. I've definitely had sessions where the conversation is more social rather than doing like a deep emotional work, but those sessions are rapport building. You're relating to your therapist. You want to relate to them. You want to feel like you've got some common ground, like they can understand you. And if talking about Game of Thrones for 5 to 10 minutes, or if talking about how the Dodgers are doing or something is something that you kind of find common ground with, and that's great too. That's rapport building. That's important. As a therapist, we want to hear those stories. We want to be a part of those stories, and we want to help in any way that we can. So definitely not boring though. Question 10, if I have nothing to talk about, are you judging me? Definitely not. Like I was saying before, sometimes the session is more social than deep work, and that's okay too. That's important. That's an important part of the therapeutic alliance. That's an important part of building rapport with each other, building that relationship. Definitely not something where I judge you on it at all. I think that's kind of a silly thing to be judged upon. So no, definitely not judging you. Question 11, do you think everything I do is a sign of something deeper? This one's fun because this I guess this is asking, like, am I analyzing every little thing that you're doing? Like, if you sit on the left side of the couch one week and then the right side of the couch the other week? No. If I was overanalyzing or analyzing every little thing that you did, that would be exhausting. For you and for me. I'm not analyzing every little thing that you do. Usually I take what you give me. I may take note of certain things, like if I'm in a family session, I've got multiple members of the family in the room with me, I may take note of who's sitting by who, or who kind of looks at who, or if you're telling me that you're not anxious but you're giving me all the physical signs of anxiety, like tapping your pen, or doing a lot of like fidgeting, that kind of stuff, that's some stuff that I take note of, but I'm not overanalyzing every little thing. Question number 12, do you really need to charge this much money? Oh man. So definitely as a client, I 100% agree. I think that insurance could do more to help, or insurance could do more to cover more sessions rather than a certain number. Some insurances cover a certain amount of sessions, but I definitely get the anxiety of, I want to talk to somebody, I want to deal with something, but $160 or $250 a week is a lot. From the therapist or the clinician's perspective, yeah, we kind of do have to charge that much. It costs a lot of time and money to get those degrees costs a lot of time and money to gain that experience. If they're a private practice, it costs some to keep the lights on, it costs some to rent the building out. I know here in Southern California, real estate's at a premium. So if you're seeing somebody who runs a private practice, their cost might be up a little bit more because it costs a little bit more for rent and to keep the lights on. For me personally, I work at a counseling center, which means I'm one of multiple therapists. And on top of that, I'm an associate therapist, which means that I'm working under someone else's license until I can get enough hours required by the state to test for my license. So going to a place like where I work is actually a little bit more cost effective because you're seeing me at a little bit cheaper rate because I'm not a license. So that actually works to your advantage. So there's definitely a lot of ways to look at it, but yes, it's an investment and it's something that you have to take seriously. Certain counseling centers or certain therapists will offer something called a sliding scale where they adjust their rate to better fit your budget. Something that you definitely can ask about if they offer it. You're probably gonna find that more at a counseling center or a mental health center. They may have more of a freedom to offer that than somebody in a private practice. Question number 13, do your feelings get hurt when patients break up with you? No. If I'm not the best help, if I'm not the best fit for you, then let me help you find somebody who's the best fit. Like I was saying earlier, I work at a counseling center, so I'm one of many other clinicians and therapists and associate therapists and trainees. You know, if I'm not your flavor, we'll help you find somebody who is. So I definitely have clients that break up with me, and I've definitely had clients where I have to break up with them and tell them like, listen, we're not friends. You know, I don't want to keep charging you every week to come hang out with me. So I've broken up with clients have broken up with me. It definitely doesn't hurt my feelings. I totally understand. Question number 14, do you have favorite patients? I'm gonna say I have favorite stories. So while I have clients that I work with better or that I seem to fit with better, definitely the things that I would consider my favorites are the stories that come out of it. So whenever I work with a client who has dealt with their presenting issues, they feel like they have all the tools and they're ready to you know, give it a go or you know, break up with me, you know, those are my favorite, because those remind me why I got into this in the first place. Those, you know, having those experiences reminds me of why I became a therapist. But if you ask me, I'll tell you you're one of my favorite. Question number 15, where am I supposed to be looking right now? Sometimes clients will pick a certain spot on the wall, or they'll look at their shoes, or you know, if they're laying down, they just get to look at the ceiling, and so there's no pressure to look anywhere. But honestly, you could look anywhere you want as long as it's, you know, as long as it's appropriate, I guess. You know, you can look wherever you want. This is your session. Where you're supposed to be looking, I have no idea. We never covered that in class. So look wherever you want, I guess. Number 16, is it possible to talk too much in my own therapy session? I don't think so. You know, honestly, I think the more you communicate, the easier it is for me to get a hand on the pulse of the situation and be a better help. The only thing that I'm really concerned about is being helpful to my clients. I'm not interrupting you so I can ask a question. Maybe I might if I'm really trying to, like, if I hear something that I really want to kind of like probe at a little bit more, but I'm more stressed out about trying to make sure that I do my part as the therapist. I'm not trying to steamroll over you or keep you from talking. Matter of fact, I really encourage the first couple of sessions that you have whenever you're seeing a new therapist is you talk. You give them your story. You tell them as much about yourself as you can. But I think the more you talk, the more you're able to process, and as a therapist, the more I'm able to hear about your story and hopefully be better help. So I don't think you can talk too much. Question number 17, how do you handle listening to people's problems all day long? Self-care, self-care, self-care. Self-care is incredibly important. In any given week, I can see between 12 and 20 clients that week, depending on my schedule. That's a lot of people, that's a lot of stories, that's a lot to intake. So being a therapist can be very emotionally and mentally taxing. If it's an extremely traumatic case, sometimes that kind of stuff follows me home, because as an empathetic person, or just as a person in general, you want to feel for your clients. And I've gotten mad with my clients, I've gotten sad with my clients. So, you know, in any given day, I can be celebrating with one client and crying with the next. Making sure that you take care of yourself, making sure there's self-care, and making sure you keep things in perspective. My job is not to solve all the world's problems. My job is to collaborate with my client, help facilitate some self-discovery, help them work through the presenting problem that they brought to me, and then leave it there. It's really, really important that I leave my work at my work. So how do I handle it? I take care of myself. If I'm able to take care of myself, then I'm gonna be better help for you. Question 18, do you see a therapist? Absolutely, this is part of self-care. Seeing my own therapist is important. I know for my program, for my master's program, it was required. We had to see our own therapist. We had to see our own therapist while we were in school. We couldn't graduate without seeing our own therapist for a certain amount of sessions. I'm at a point now with my therapist that I usually reach out to her whenever I really need to talk through something, and that's usually like every other month, every 2 or 3 months. I'm definitely reaching out because it's always good to check in with yourself. Definitely therapists should see their own therapist. I think that's really important. Number 19, can I give you a hug? Aw, that's sweet. Without getting too deep into it, therapy can be a very vulnerable experience, and it's important that I do everything I can to protect that vulnerability, to protect your confidentiality, to protect your trust in me as a clinician, as a therapist. So I never initiate hugs, but I have had clients that have wanted a hug, or I dap up my clients once in a while. You know, you kind of do the bro hug with some of your cooler clients. I respect boundaries. Boundaries are very important. Those boundaries need to be enforced. They need to be protected. So I never initiate hugs. I want to make sure that you remember this is a safe space, that you should not feel any pressure to engage with me in any physical form of way. I haven't turned down a hug, but I've also made sure that it's appropriate and I don't initiate those hugs. Well, I hope that this was insightful for you. I hope that this was interesting for you. If there's any questions that you have that you're too embarrassed to ask your therapist, or any question that you've ever wanted to ask a therapist, be sure to write it down in the comments down below. I think I'll do another one of these videos somewhere down the road because there are a ton of questions that people have for therapists, and I am more than happy to be one of those therapists that answers the questions. So thank you so much for checking out the channel. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to check out thecreatorsofTherapy.com. There's all kinds of links down in the description below, especially where I got the questions that I was reading today. So again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.